Do you think that AI is the future in our industry?
100%. Yeah, the more I see, the more I believe it is.
Welcome to Set Apart Podcast. My name is Oscar. I'm the host of the show, and I'm president and founder of John Bell Construction. We've been in business for 10 years now. We're a commercial general contractor here in South Florida, and we also have a podcast. So today we have Patrick Murphy. I was thinking about how to introduce you, but I'm like, I think I should just let you introduce yourself because I'm not sure, what do people actually know you for other than being Patrick Murphy?
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's an honor to be on the show, and congrats on all your success and what you're working on. You might know some of this, but raised in a family construction business. My grandfather was a painter, moved down to Key West in 1952. My grandfather was actually in World War II. He was in the 101st Airborne. And so he wasn't afraid of heights, right? So after the war, he came home, was looking for work, heard about this job in the Keys, and he was painting radio towers and came down, and they were expanding the Navy barracks in the Keys at the time. He fell in love with it. He's like, holy cow, this is amazing, right? So he moved down there, was a painter. So my dad grew up, and my uncle grew up in and around construction. And so my brothers and I all grew up, of course, in construction as well. My dad actually dropped out of University of Miami his freshman year to start a construction company. He was living in the frats there at UM, and had an opportunity to rebuild the frat he was living in. And he made, I don't know how much, he made like 10 grand, right? And he's like, I'm the richest guy, right? Why would I go to college? It's so dumb. So he dropped out of college, started a construction company. So anyway, I say that because it was important to our family and my dad that we all started at the bottom, right? We all started in construction, working on job sites, doing, sweeping floors, pouring concrete, everything, you have to learn. So worked our way through the industry, worked in estimating, worked in accounting, right? Worked in all aspects of the business. And then got my CPA license and ended up working at Deloitte, public accounting firm for a bit, did that. And then 2010 BP oil spill happened, and decided to start an environmental cleanup company. If you remember that oil spill, there was talk about oil coming through the loop current of the Gulf and then coming through the Keys, which is where I was raised. Right. I was like, holy shit, right? We got to get involved. We got to clean up. So had a little environmental cleanup company.
That's the first time you got involved with the environment?
Yep.
What do you think, what sparked that?
It was such an impactful moment, right? You remember when that spill was happening?
Yeah, it was a big deal.
I mean, the cameras, there's oil everywhere, and it was sickening to see it. And then the threat of that coming through the Keys, through the reefs and the fishing grounds and everything that I grew up doing.
That's right, because you consider yourself, you're
a conch. Yeah, I grew up in the Keys. So I'm like, we can't let this happen. And it was just one of these small world situations where someone had invented an oil skimmer after Exxon Valdez, decades ago. And we were able to get the rights to that patent, to that boat, to that skimmer. Wow. So then we got that, and we started building a few, and it was like, oh, this is a great business. We'll put them to work. We'll clean up. We'll be like the local company to, be prepared. And anyway, so that was sort of an eye-opener to government, combined with the experience I had at Deloitte as a public accountant, dealing with Sarbanes-Oxley and, some of the public accounting requirements that are needed. And in both situations, I saw that government had good intents, but it was really poorly implemented. And it was frustrating to me because I thought we could do a better job as a country. At the same time, in 2010 or so, after the oil spill, there was the Tea Party movement, a lot of, sort of animosity in politics. And I mean, I'm the type that's, hey, let's find that middle ground and let's solve 80% of the problems. And then, let's get to the 20% when we can, but let's just get things done, right? There's just too many important issues. Things are moving way too quick. Republican, Democrat, I don't get hung up on that. Let's solve problems for people. So anyway, long story short, I ran for office because I was tired of complaining. One of my best friends basically challenged me. He said, who the hell are you to complain? And,
do something about it.
Yeah, do something. I was like, oh.
Well, a lot of people in politics that aren't from politics, that's how they get into it. Yeah. Even Kevin Cabrera, which he's now the ambassador to Panama. Right. He started, he got into politics and he wanted to run because he had a tough time opening his septic tank permit. He's like, this is ridiculous.
It's a personal thing that hits you, and you're like, we can do better as a country, as a community, as a state, right? So
what do you want? How do you want for people to, they think of Oscar Morejon, oh, he's the guy that has a construction company, and maybe a couple other things. How do you think that you'd want people to know you for?
Trying to leave the world and the community a better place than I found it, right? Whether that's through public service or when, hopefully we'll get the chance to talk about some of the AI stuff I'm working on now. It might sound cheesy, but I believe we can transform the built environment and the way people and how they live, right? I think AI is going to compress the amount of time it takes to build a building, build a house from years to a much shorter amount of time, and enable us to use our creativity to focus on affordability, sustainability, walkable communities, livable communities, and help people live in a better place.
So how do you think AI is affecting the construction industry right now?
Look, we're a laggard, right? I'm sure you've seen the stats. There was something I read recently. Over the last 50 years, it said that the construction industry has had a 0% increase in productivity. Most other industries are up 2x, 3x, even 10x. Construction's flatlined.
Yeah, just block by block, the mason and the work has not changed whatsoever.
No, I mean, the Empire State Building was built in 13 months. What do you think it'd take today to build that? Like 13 years? Like, I don't know. I mean, 4 years. I mean, 2 years, yes.
Yeah.
And look, there's a lot of reasons. There's safety, there's regulations, right? There's a lot that goes into that. But I mean, that's really impressive. You think about how that building, was built and the quality of it, right? The stonemasons. So we've really regressed, I think, in many ways. And I think we can do better. So I think AI is going to transform because, as we know in the industry, certainly, basically every building that's built is unique. Right, it's a different piece of dirt, a different configuration, different architect and engineer, and new materials come out, and maybe different regulatory environment and pricing and subs and vendors. Everything's different on it. But when you pull it back, AI is really good at taking all the different buildings that have been built and finding the similarities in it.
Right.
And if you think about just in a simple example, a 2,500 square foot house, say, once. Just say you're the owner, you decide you want, 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms and your kitchen and laundry room and a pool. Once you have the basic layout for that, there's only a few different ways you're going to run the plumbing and electric and HVAC systems and the structure, because you're in Miami is going to be concrete. Like, there's not 1,000 different ways to do it, right? There's 2 or 3 reasonable ways, for example, you're going to run the plumbing. And with AI, if we have 100,000 different homes now that are just say roughly 2,500 square feet, with a click of a button now, we're going to tell you the exact layout for the MEPs, the structure, the building, from a very simple prompt that you gave it based on your address, your budget, and the style of construction you want.
So that's already happening right now?
It's happening right now.
Wow. Is that with Togal.ai?
That's with Togal.
Okay, so let's talk about Togal now, because now you're blowing my mind. I thought Togal was more of an estimating software.
It is. It is. I'm sorry, I got too deep too quick.
No. You can never get deep enough. So talk to me about Togal. Because let's actually go back. So, and maybe I'm wrong. You grew up in a family of construction where, somebody else pioneered the way through starting a company. So me, putting yourself in your shoes, I would say, you're trying to find your own value, your own creativity, and you've actually had the opportunity to see things maybe from a different perspective. The oil spill happens and immediately you realize, hey, there's a need here. Is that how Togal kind of happened, where you saw the need for estimating in AI and for this actual program?
I'd say in both ways.
Because it's uncommon with your career path.
And both situations, blessed that I had someone that paved the way, right? And my family, my grandfather and my dad in particular, right, that built that wonderful foundation that I was so blessed to be born into. Not that I didn't work hard and he didn't mandate that, right? But still, he did a lot of the hard work.
No, sometimes you work harder.
And so I did the political thing, right? And so to answer your question, so I did that. And at the time, I was 29 years old. I was the youngest member of Congress. So, here I am going to change the world, right? I mean, of course, like, why else are you going to run for Congress, right? You want to do big things. So I'm thinking I'm going to be involved in tax reform and climate change and the debt and reduce the debt and unemployment and immigration, healthcare, all these things. And you get there and you realize the whole conversation is just about getting reelected. That's crazy. Right? I mean, you just spend all your life raising money. And I'm like a telemarketer with a cool title, right? You're just begging for money. It's a terrible, setup, and it's a terrible system. And it's not that the people are bad; it's that the incentives are bad, and you're incentivized for basically bad behavior. And we won't talk about politics unless you want to, but it was an eye opener for me. And being that age, my focus was, how do we focus on the jobs of tomorrow, right? With AI and crypto and the sharing economy and the sort of, transformation we're going through right now as a society, what should we be doing as a government to prepare for the jobs of tomorrow? So I got introduced to all these leaders in Silicon Valley talking about AI back in 2013. Like, crypto, like, I wish I was smart enough to invest in this stuff, right? But anyway, so fast forward, I rejoined Coastal in 2017, 2018. we've been blessed like you all to be in a great market. Company's grown. And I had a fresh set of eyes. I come back to the business and nothing had changed, right? It was all the same processes and procedures.
And you came with a completely different perspective.
Totally different perspective now.
Which is, I think it's great.
Right. So
I was telling my
lucky to
wife
have
the
that.
same thing the other day. I said, I feel like sometimes we're so deep into it that you really lose perspective of what's good, what's bad, what should we start doing, which is the hardest part of our job as leaders is like, where do we make a pivot when you're so deep into it?
So true. What do they say? See the forest through the trees, right? And be able to zoom out. So I was lucky to have that new, fresh set of eyes perspective now to come back and say, guys, we can use technology. Like there's something we can do. So went through our financials at Coastal and saw the single biggest piece of overhead was estimating. Right? We win our fair share like you do, but still there's a lot of jobs you don't win. And you're bidding. It takes time. You got to rebid it, right? Reprice it, new set of plans. It's nonstop.
A lot.
Constant revisions. Even when you're building the job, if you win it, you still got to keep bidding stuff, right? Because there's changes. So started going through what was driving those costs and estimating. And I realized that about 50, 60% of our team's time was doing takeoffs. Like, wait a minute. I used to do takeoffs with a ruler on paper planes with my grandfather, right? Back in the day, we had a yellow pad. And it really hasn't changed a whole lot, right? We're
At all.
using a mouse.
Maybe a program or two.
Right. And you have a mouse to do the same kind of thing, but it's very mundane and boring. And it's important, but it's not the highest value necessarily. So that's when sort of the light bulb went off. Wait a minute. If a human can look at the plans and see the difference in the bedroom, the bathroom, the hallway, whatever, so can a computer. You just have to train it. And so let's use AI to automate days or weeks of work in a click of a button, right, in seconds. And so, I'm not a technical founder. I can't write the code, but was able to find the team that was able to help us start building it. So long story short, we aggregated tens of thousands of plans from all over the world, different languages, hired 25 architects and engineers to label them in a super consistent manner. Like the labeling was critical because you can't go to Google and buy this data, right? It's not like it's out there. You got to buy this. You can't buy it. You have to build this yourself. So you have a huge database. And then we start training the AI models like you teach a 5-year-old right, kid.
The same way we teach ChatGPT.
Right, same way. You just keep massaging. It gets close, and then no, wrong. It learns. You keep correcting it. So we spent 3 years training, teaching, till we got to 97% accuracy. So upload a PDF. You could draw on the back of that piece of paper a floor plan, send a picture in, and we'll give you the square footage. Wow. Right, we'll give you the walls. So in short, Togal does your net area, your gross area, all your linear takeoffs, all your counts, and now we're automating, getting into assemblies. And starting to automate that. So, what's behind this wall? Is it, where's the spacing? Is it 16 inches, 18 inches, 2x4s, is it metal studs? What's the top, the bottom, tracks look like? So we're starting to get into assemblies for flooring, for concrete, for drywall, et cetera. So we want to be the best takeoff tool in the world powered by AI.
Wow. Is there anything, let's say, that you've seen that has brought extreme benefit to Coastal or to other people who use Togal.ai?
Yes.
What are there?
Number one, on Coastal, we did a case study, and I promise it's not biased. It was a true case study because we wanted to see sort of the value because Coastal invested, of course, in Togal. So it's like, hey, what's the value prop? So it was a true independent study. And they found that in the first year using Togal, they saved 10,000 hours, which equated back to the napkin to about $1 million of savings. Wow. We've had numerous other case studies, but one company in particular came to us, and they were using Bluebeam. They were a painting company, and they wanted to grow their bids by, I think it was 25%. That was their goal. They want to grow the business, and that year by 25%. They knew they needed to grow bids by 25%. So they came to us within, I think, the first 40 days. They had 215% growth in their bids. That's the difference it made for them. So to me, the coolest part about Togal is being able to help, not Clark Construction or Suffolk or the big boys, but that smaller, mid-sized contractor that's trying to grow and maybe doesn't have the budget to go hire an estimator for $100,000 a year or whatever, but wants to bid more work. How do you, grow your revenues? You got to bid more work. How do you bid more work, right? Obviously, you have to do more takeoffs. So how do you do that with a click of a button? Now you can do it with Togal. For $3,000 a year, you can now bid on 10x more work.
That's a perfect reel.
Yeah.
That's a perfect clip right there. So, that's us. That's literally us. It's hard to find estimators. You can ask Jazz here at our company. The hardest person to fill is an estimator. Wow. So not even if we had them, forget about it being expensive. We'll pay whatever it is. We just can't find them.
Right.
Does it help with the actual cost estimation of it? So talk to me, because now we know that it can do takeoffs. How can you put a cost component to it?
So we've stayed away from the pricing side of it.
But can you plug it in though?
You can. So we have we have APIs. We have connections to either if you have like an Excel spreadsheet where you do your estimating or various platforms that we integrate with. So we map directly from the takeoff directly to your estimating tool that you use or Excel. Within Togal, you can do your spreadsheets basically and do your sorting and clicking maybe by floor or by trade or however you want to sort it. We can do all that in Togal. But we decided not to get into pricing. I think we will eventually, but it's just, as you know, such a gray area, right? Like who's doing the installation, who's your vendors, what are the hours? Like there's just so many variables there.
Can we help the sub? Because it's meant for the sub, the person that self-performs?
GCs and subs. We have probably about 55, 60% GCs of all sizes.
Okay.
And the remaining 40, 45% is trade partners. A lot of painters, drywall, flooring, quite a few MEP, structural guys. So, yeah.
No, because it'll be great, even if they don't have it. Say, hey, here are some quantities because sometimes we'll send them the bid and we'll say, hey, we need in 2 weeks. And they'll say, I won't have it done in 2 weeks.
So I'm glad you made that point. It's actually something we're hearing more and more often from contractors telling us, look, one of the coolest things about Togal is now we're getting a lot more sub coverage because now we can share our takeoff with them. They can change it if they want, if they don't agree with it, but now they can see that takeoff and now I can get a bid in days that they otherwise never would have submitted because they didn't have the time. So we built in something. Have you ever used like Google Sheets?
Yeah.
How you can share, right? You just share with whatever.
Same thing.
So we built that into Togal because it's all web-based. So now if you got, 50 subs you want to share it with, you just put their emails in and we can upload that for you real quick. Boom, you click a button, share it. Now they can see the takeoff if you want. Like we have permissions like in Google Sheets where they can be an editor or view only, so we have the different permissions, share it with them, and then they can use it for free on that job.
Nice.
Right? So, and now if they want to buy Togal for like a second job, then they have to come to us and buy it. But on your job, they get it for free. So I think it's a really cool feature to get more coverage.
Do you think that AI is the future in our industry?
100%. Yeah, the more I see, the more I believe it is.
Have you guys started working on other things like writing scopes and other things like that, or
yes, and
it's in the works.
It's in the works, and again, so much of what we do, yes, it's unique, but it's also been done. You have to write a scope on every job. Is it unique? Yes. Is 80% of it, 90% the same of a previous? Probably. You probably start with something.
Yeah, you always start with a boilerplate.
You start with a boilerplate. AI is going to be really good at that, tying it to that unique set of plans that you have, and then learning, just like you did in the takeoff, of why the scope on job A was different than job B, what was in that set of plans that made it unique, and we'll be automating that automatically.
You had mentioned at the beginning that there's a way that it can do MEPs, and is that in the design? Because does Togal do that, or that's in the process of?
So this is where I think the industry is going. I think, and look, don't quote me on the years, but I think in 5 years, for sure our lifetime, if you want to build a new building, there's going to be 3 inputs. It'll be a prompt, like you're going to GPT, right? It'll be a little different layout, but basically going to prompt. You say, my address is 101 Main Street, right, Miami, Florida. I have a X, is my budget. I have $1 million budget, and I want Mediterranean style, right? Those simple prompts, and you're going to get 5 different layouts instantly, click of a button that fit that budget, that know the zoning, that know the density, that know the setback, that know the fire code, because you already gave it the address, so it knows, it can plug right in, and now build a set of plans exactly, for that budget that and it's not just going to be like a floor plan and a pretty facade. It'll be the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, the structural plan.
How much more work? I think our build. As you're talking, I was like. Because sometimes what happens, they send us the plans and they say, hey, give us a number. Like 8 weeks later, we come up with a price and say, hey, it's $24 million. Right. Oh, that's not good because our budget's 17. Well, that's a big problem. Yeah. And then for that architect or engineer to redo all those drawings takes another 6 weeks.
Yep.
So I feel like it's going to it really expedite the process in which we bid. Do you think the architects and engineers should be kind of concerned for the job?
If we zoom out for a second, I think all knowledge workers, architects, engineers, CPAs, doctors, accountants, should be the most concerned with AI. The price of knowledge is going to zero, right? So all those really high-paying jobs right now, traditionally that we grew up, our parents telling us, oh, you need your CPA license or PhD or whatever. I think it could change very quickly where the mechanic and the plumber and the electrician are raking it in because they're working with their hands, and those are harder jobs to automate with AI. So I'm very bullish on construction and the trades because of that. Now, look, maybe there's robots and whatever. I don't know, but I still think we're always going to have to be working with our hands, especially in construction. But I think it changes the way we build for the better for society. And I think you hit on the most important thing. Interestingly, I think that means there's more construction. It's sort of counterintuitive. And I always look back at the example of bank tellers. When the ATM came out, the bank tellers were up in rate saying, oh my gosh, we're not going to have any jobs. This is terrible. But what happened is now all of a sudden, banks could afford to build 10x more banks and all these little out parcels, right? That every little parking lot's got a little bank in it, and there's a person there with an ATM, but there's still a person
Now
there.
everybody has an ATM on their hand.
Right.
With
Now
their phone.
you're right, crypto and all that. Like, who knows what happens there? But interestingly, bank tellers didn't get displaced at all. In fact, there's more today than there ever were. And I think that's the same with construction. There will be more construction than ever when you break down the barriers and you make it more transparent and are able to give the pricing and give a set of plans that's up to code, up to spec immediately for people. And then again, they get to focus on a better looking building, on a more sustainable, right?
Yeah. That's where we talk about that all the time, that the sustainability, forget about construction being, that hasn't progressed. Sustainability, we're the one that's building, and the sustainability it's extremely low in our industry considering all the other industries. I don't know, those things kind of blow my mind because it's kind of like architects. Even when CAD came out, they said, well, architecture kind of went a little bit down because you've seen those drawings where you have like, those pictures. They have like hundreds of architects. It's just, to me, it's interesting how it's going to affect our industry. And other things that are affecting our industry are also building products, which is another product that you guys have called Renco. So talk to us about what Renco is, what Renco isn't, and how is that changing, the evolution of construction?
Right. So again, I'll start 30,000 foot level. There's basically three ways to build, right? You have concrete, you have metal, and you got wood. All right, that's it. It hasn't changed. And the last breakthrough was reinforced concrete 125 years ago or whatever. So it hasn't changed. It should change, right? Back to the whole conversation around construction being a laggard industry. So we were approached about 15 years ago with a composite building system that's made of recycled glass, recycled plastic, calcite, right, like a limestone dust, and then a resin that holds it together. And it's not just the material, but it's the way it's put together in a Lego-like format. So it was brought to us. We said, holy cow, this is almost like too good to be true. Let's do some testing. We started doing testing, and it was like stronger than we ever could have believed. We thought it'd take 2 years to get it approved. Ended up taking 10 years to get approved, not because of anything that's wrong with the material, but the bureaucracy in the system.
You're talking about Renco or the other product?
Renco.
Oh, okay. That was my next question was the process.
Yeah.
What was the... Because everybody's kind of against anything that's new.
Anything that's new. And so the reason I started the conversation with those three materials is because what we didn't appreciate in the beginning is we are introducing the fourth way to build in the world, right? Which is a composite building system that's never been done. So when we started bringing this to get tested, they said, you got to go back to the beginning. You got to do the fire, the off-gassing, the hurricane, the earthquake, all the different tests. And so it took about a decade, as I mentioned, and it was over like 450 unique tests, and they had to be sequential. So you can't just like start doing them all at once. This had to go, and then this, and then this, and then some of the tests would take 6 months, and then you got to wait in line to go to the testing facility, right? Yeah. I mean, the bureaucracy of it's unbelievable. So there's no question of why we haven't had new and more building technologies and materials introduced. It's because of that bureaucracy and what goes into that. Thankfully, we're through it now. We are now fully approved, the fourth building system in the world. And we have a facility in Palm Beach, Florida, a factory that can manufacture enough block to build about 9,000 homes or apartment units a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how has that affected the labor rate, the cost rate, sustainability? What are things that the Renco has done?
All great questions. So number one, stronger than competing materials. So just give an example. The block, it looks like a Lego block. It's basically the same size as a CMU block. Our block only weighs 8 pounds. CMU weighs 40 pounds, right? Mm-hmm. Under compression, CMU block will break at around 1,600 PSI. Our new blocks don't break till 32,000 PSI. Right, it's
30
incredible.
times.
Yeah. So you don't have to put concrete poured cells. You don't have to put rebar.
I know
anything.
Legos hurt because I step on them every morning when I when I go to the
You know how
kitchen.
strong they are. So you stack these blocks like Legos, right? You don't have to pour anything in it. We built a 2,000 square foot house with one person in one day. So it's extremely fast, right? So strong, fast, green. It's made of recycled materials, so it's about 80% greener than competing materials because it's recycled materials. It's about 20% less expensive, apples to apples, because of the labor. We're using unskilled labor to assemble this because, again, it's you and I can theoretically, we're skilled, but and I could go.
But we're not skilled as being a mason.
A mason, right?
Yeah.
So we can go build this ourselves. And so we've been hiring unskilled labor to build this, putting people to work. And it's a great, back's not sore at the end of the day, right? It's 8-pound blocks, super easy to assemble. And all around better materials. So the savings, that 20%, is really in the labor costs.
Do you think that the cost of making it is going to go
Yes.
down significantly? What do you think it would have to take for that price to go down significantly on the material?
Right now, the developer, the folks that we're selling to, that 20% is enough to get their interest. That if you can go, just say, half the amount of time, build faster, and you're 20% less, like, I'll give this a shot. I think with better technology, sourcing more and more materials, of course, like anything, the more of it you produce, usually the scale, right? The cost comes down. Single family homes, I think we'll be able to build the structure, right? We're not touching the paint and the drywall, right? We're only a structural building system. But on the structure, I think we'll get the cost of structure down by about 50%, especially for single family homes.
Wow. How does that integrate with like stucco and cladding and
however you want to finish it, you finish it.
We can stucco right on, like we can put a scratch coat right on it?
Yeah, we have a mesh that we put on, like a lath, right?
Okay.
Put on and stucco right on that. You drill it right in, no problem. You use a drywall screw right into it. And then on the interior, we have two types of blocks. I won't get too deep, but basically we have a block that's a skeletal block on the inside where you can run your MEPs on the inside and put your drywall right on the blocks. You don't have to frame it out 4 inches or whatever.
That's another block that you put in front of it?
No, the actual structural block is hollow on the interior side.
Oh, wow.
So imagine.
So like an inspection block type of, like the masonry inspection that has like a cavity.
Kind of what it looks like, yeah. But it passes all the code. So you can build with that. On the outside, it's solid. You put your stucco on it, or you can put a wood cladding, or, hell, you can put marble. I don't know, whatever you want, right? And then on the interior, run your MEPs, boom, put your drywall right there.
What's the coolest project that you've seen Renco build, like a structure?
So on the U.S., our first job, 96-unit apartment building in Palm Beach, it was, to me, the coolest because it was the first one. And I'll tell you why in particular. We split up the buildings. It was 4 buildings. So in the first building, it was around 55 unique pieces to build that building. So, like when you're a kid, you have Legos. There's like Legos for the 16-year-old versus Legos for the 6-year-old, right? And the pieces get smaller and they're more complicated the older you get.
It's like in IKEA, we get the whole bag of screws.
Right. So 55 pieces. By the time we got to the 4th building, we'd made so many improvements, we had it down to 22 pieces.
Wow.
Right. So imagine you're doing a 30,000-foot building, right? Big apartment building, 3-story walk-up, fully approved with 22 unique pieces.
That's crazy.
Right? Color coded, and also you and I show up to the job that day. Within an hour, we know the colors. Okay, there's the 12-inch block, there's the 48-inch block, there's the header, and it all fits together. So we're doing the floors, we're doing the roof, we're doing the decking, the headers of the windows and the doors, the walls, right? The whole building system. So it's one trade. Like that's part of the genius of this. You're not waiting on the
precast guy and the form guy and the rebar guy.
Right, I got sick and this happened, and you wait another day.
Same crew can build
one
it.
crew does the whole thing.
Wow. How does it make you feel?
It's exciting because, look, it's a breakthrough, right? And it's toward the conversation of how do we improve our industry and get more people to build and make it more affordable and more sustainable. It's going to take breakthroughs like this. Obviously, I'm biased toward our product, but whatever it is that's coming through, we need more of it.
I love it. All right, rapid fire. All right, here you go. I already know I feel like I know the answer to the first one. We'll see. Favorite childhood memory?
Oh, you feel like you know the answer to that? Damn. Yeah. I'm close with my family, so anything, it sounds cheesy, but like playing golf with my grandfather, boating with my dad, just spending time with them. I feel like, very lucky to grow up in the Florida Keys in a cool place like that.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Favorite coastal project that Coastal has done?
Ooh. We have so many recent ones that are just so cool and so unique. But I'd say some of the big breaks we had were doing some of the first mid-rises in Miami down in like Deering Bay. And then doing some of the buildings in Brickell early on in like 2000, late 90s, early 2000s. And, we were doing single family homes, couple commercial things, and then we got our first big break. So to me, that's what like helped get us on, that like sort of upward trajectory. So I look at those early mid-rise towers as the big break that are to me the coolest because it's so hard to get when you're that, when you're coming from there.
Trust me, I know. Best restaurant to eat in South Florida?
I love Joe's. So.
Oh, that's a
classic. Yeah.
Favorite sports team?
Miami Hurricanes.
Number one hobby?
Used to be fishing. It's now anything. Oh God, I don't know. I got married, so my whole life changed.
Yeah.
Spending time with my wife.
That's a good answer. Yeah. Think about this one because I always ask the same question. And people, what's their favorite time of the day?
On weekends, or even most days, it's mornings. I like mornings.
Yeah.
I like having a cup of coffee. I like doing my workout. I like watching, sunrise, watching the news, reading a paper. I like that hour or whatever of time.
When no one's bothering you.
Yeah.
What do you think is the future of the construction industry?
I think it's going to go from a laggard industry to an industry that people want to work in, they're excited to work in, where they can make great careers, where they don't have to actually have a 4 or 6 year, degree education, but make a great living, and that we're going to change the way people live in the world, and whether it's AI, whether it's new building materials, whether it's robotics and drones. We're going to go through, I think, as big of a transition as any industry has ever gone through in the next decade.
I agree, and I love where we're going. I'm excited about it. If you have any questions about construction, about being a tradesman and tradeswoman, there's a lot of opportunities, even here in South Florida, that FIU has. The Miami-Dade County public school system has a great secondary program. And like you said, you don't need to go to get a construction management degree, but if you want to, we'll love to talk to you about it. We're on the board of the School of Construction Management, the School of Engineering. So whatever your path is in construction, I think it's important that you know that it's not a very linear approach. There's a lot of things you can do in our industry, and I'm really excited about to see where our industry is going. And I think only the sky's the limits, honestly, for anybody who invests in it and anybody that believes in it. I
agree. And just to add to what you just said, I read recently that's the big, beautiful bill, right? That new legislation in D.C. Is going to cover Pell Grants for tradesmen. Right, so it's not necessarily having to go to college. Going and get a trades education apprenticeship will be covered with the Pell Grant. So that's great for our industry, get more people into it.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of grants that the state is actually giving to actual tradesmen, to different subcontractors. So if you're a tradesman out there that wants to maybe get more people that are looking to be an apprentice, the state actually gives you a significant amount of money towards their hourly rate, so that you can train them, they can pay for it, and at the end of the day, we need more skilled labor. I think it's like there's every 5 that leave, we only 1 re-enters the market. So maybe you're in it. Construction is a great industry for you, and we're looking forward to see what happens in the next 5 to 10 years.
Awesome, thank you.
We'll catch you on the next one.